All right, day 485. Today we're going live. We're analyzing a deal. It's been on the market for not that long. So if you've been following what we've been doing, we've been creating a comparable sales list of properties that are coming onto the market. And these properties are filtered on 4 bedrooms, single family homes, and on the market for less than 7 days. Now, that's how I found this property right here on 908 37th Street North, Birmingham, Alabama 35222. Now, this is a zip code that I don't see that often. It's just outside of downtown Birmingham. It's near the Avondale part, which I heard is a little bit better. So I want to take a quick look at this area and see what's going on. Now, this property is right next to a church. Very interesting. Just want to gauge this area, see what's going on here. That's like one random house next to like all this parking stuff. Same street. Interesting. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to add this property to my list of comparable sales properties. Now I have a list of properties that have been sold in the last 12 months. I have another list of the properties that have been sold in the last 3 months. And now I'm tracking properties that are coming onto the market essentially for the last 90 to 120 days. Now, I don't see that many properties in 35222, so I'm going to start a new section right here and copy down the details for this property specifically. Now, I want to track, obviously, the common details that is applicable to almost every single property, which is your bed bath count, your square footage, your year built, which for this one's 1930, and your lot size 6969. 1930, 6969. This property is being listed for 138 grand. Okay, 138. Now, the reason I want to track all these properties and what they're being sold for is because of a couple of things, right? One is if you're pursuing a BRRRR strategy, and let's explain the BRRRR strategy using an example, right? BRRRR stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Now, in that scenario, what's going to happen is you're looking to pull back out as much capital as you invested into the property originally. Now, that means that, hey, if you spend $20,000 buying a home and another $50,000 renovating the home, then you are now all in on that property for what, roughly $70,000, because that is 20 grand plus 50 grand. So you're all in cash invested for $70,000. But if you were to make that home worth $100,000, you can now go get a debt service coverage ratio loan, pull back out all the capital that you originally invested in by taking out a 70% loan value product. So now you don't have to leave in all of your money, right? Because what's the alternative? The alternative is typically folks save up money from a full-time job using their pay to apply towards a 20, 25% down payment and hope that it cash flows or hope that it appreciates, and over time to save up again. And that's why that strategy is a little bit slower. Not saying you can't be successful doing that, but that strategy is just slower. Everybody can succeed their own way. So on this property, what is so important about that strategy is you're looking for the ARV, because that's a pretty big risk factor, right? What if you get your ARV or your after repair value incorrect? Because that would drastically affect how much money you leave in the deal, or even if you might make some money on a cash out. So all these factors matter, okay? So for this property, what I want to do is East Birmingham, write down the neighborhood that this is in, which is East Birmingham, and that was the closest neighborhood name that I could find outside when I zoomed out of that property, just by simply going like this, and I see that it's closest to East Birmingham, right? Easy enough. So now that I tracked all these properties, now I want to make some general notes about the condition of the home. I would say this property is pretty good, looks well renovated. Bathroom has subway tiles, 1 bedroom with above average kitchen. It looks pretty good. above average kitchen and bathrooms, one room with carpeting, another with paint. So that is pretty good. All right. So now that we have all these items, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to analyze these deals with you, right? Because if I see another 3-bedroom now in the future where it's 1,000 square feet plus, and I'm thinking about converting to a 4-bedroom, I now have this property to refer to if I see another property in that zip code. Because that's how you're able to stay on top of your ARV estimates. Because guess what? If you understand how interest rates are affected by the 10-year yield, so you got to understand how and why do the interest rates keep going up and down. And if you follow the 10-year treasury yield, right, the 30-year mortgage interest rate is affected by one, the interest rate of the 10-year yield, which you can see that is 4.626 right now. But if you also understand, it's also affected by another factor, which is the spread between the 10-year yield and the 30-year mortgage interest rate. And you can see that right now, 10-year yield is as high, probably it's 12-month high, going from lows of 3.6 back in September, October of 2024 to now its current number of roughly 4.6, 4.7, 4.8. And as it goes up, obviously that's going to drive down your affordability because it's going to increase your monthly payment. All these factors matter. So if you were to look at comps today, right, and you were looking at your ARV estimates using September, October prices when properties were closed as your ARV estimates, you could be really wrong because the properties that are closing today is going to be likely less affordable because the interest rates are higher. And also because when you are buying properties today, chances are if you're buying property today, which is called February, you probably won't refinance. Best case scenario, get all your refinancing in place, get your tenants in there, complete your rehab in like 3 to 6 months. So at that point in time, the comps today might be the ones used by an appraiser for or by the lender that you're looking to do a cash out refinance on. So all these factors matter. Okay. All right. So now let's analyze this deal as is, right? So this property, if I were to start a new spreadsheet for this, this is 9/08/37th. 126. $138,000 for our rehab estimate. Let's just assume that we don't really need to do any renovations. Maybe I'll set aside 2 toilets for converting to a high pressure flush toilet, so I don't have any clogged toilet issues. Especially if you have any clogged toilet issues, it's going to cost you $200 to send someone out there. Maybe not $200 to replace the toilet, and you already have $450. You must as well get that done right now so that you don't run the course of having to face that issue all over again. Now, the next thing is 1163 for paint for the square footage of the house. So I'll do 1163. I'll just do need to do touch-up paint for about a third of the home. That's it. At $3 a square foot. $5 for landscaping, and I got $1,500 for the roof. So that gives me total rehab of less than $5,000. Okay. Now for this property, if I go to affordablehousing.com and I go to the owner section, it says that for 4 bedrooms in here, the average rent is $1,682. Now that seems a little high, to be honest with you. I probably heard it as high as $1,500, but definitely not $1,682. And if you want to ever take a closer look at this area, Zillow, you can try to see if you see any properties for rent in the same exact zip code in 35222 for 4-bedroom homes and single family properties. 35222. He said there's one property, 4-bed, 1-bath for $1,400. And either something's wrong in the neighborhood or someone doesn't like that there's only 1 bathroom, but it's been on the market for 24 days and it's only had 2 contacts, which either means that this is an undesirable neighborhood. This property is not in great condition, which I think it's a little bit more tired than our property. So right now, at the very minimum, I'm guessing that I'm going to use my property. And you see that this one's $3,200. That's all you have here. So I am not going to assume that I can get $1,600 for this property. This property is a little bit nicer. Again, this property is trying to be listed for $1,600. It's pretty close to our property, but different zip codes, so completely different neighborhoods. It's been on the market for 19 days and only had 2 contacts. As a general rule of thumb, you want for every single day you're on Zillow to have at least 1 contact to understand whether or not you're overpriced or underpriced or on a point, right? So that's why I'm going to use $1,400 because I don't see evidence of the market supporting 1,500, 1,600. Now you can always underwrite it with 1,600 and just change the inputs, but you just got to understand why you are doing that. Okay. All right. So let's plug in some details there. For this property, let's get my taxes from my payment calculator right here, which is 109. And then my insurance estimate right here is 107. So I'll do equals 107 times 1.2. And I'm adding a 20% premium to this property in anticipation that the insurer is going to charge me more because this is an investment property. So I'm at 128.40. All right, 10% for maintenance. I got 10% for property management. I got 5% for vacancy. Great. Closing costs, I got 25% down, 48.75. For my financing amount, I'm going to do equals to my B4, which is my asking price, minus my down payment percentage right here in E819. So I'll be financing $103,000 at 7.5% interest rate. This property starts on 1. Choose that. Great. So now that I got all my details in here, if I rent this property out as a 4-bedroom for $1,400, I can cash flow $89 a month, and that's a 2.7% cash and cash return, assuming I bought this property for $138. Now this almost meets the 1% rule, right? But you can see that because of all the expenses, right? Especially for maintenance, you know that a roof is going to get replaced at some point. You know that the HVAC is going to get replaced at some point. You got to put aside this capital because otherwise you'd be overestimating your profitability because you underestimate your expenses. All right. Now let's say you can really get $1,500 in rent. Let's see what that does to your rent numbers. Now at $1,500, you're going from a 2.7% to a 5% cash and cash return, assuming everything else stays constant. But now you're cash from $164 a month, right? So these are the factors that you want to consider. Now let's say your target return is 10%, right? How much do you need to lower your purchase price by to achieve a target return of 10%? 115. There you go. At $116,000, you would be at 9.9%. 9.9. So that would be, quote unquote, the lowest or the highest price I'm willing to pay for the property, assuming I got a $5,000 rehab, 7.5% interest rate. Okay. Because now I'm cash flowing $279 a month with a $1,500 rent. Okay. Now, this is all contingent upon you getting a rent of $1,500, right? So that's why you got to understand, hey, how do I adjust the levers in my underwriting to figure out what is the deal for me? The next thing I want to do is, well, what if my interest rates drop, right? So if the government decides to apply some pressure to the Federal Reserve or get the 10-year yield down, now after the 6%, well, now you might be willing to pay $128,000 because now you start at 10.2%, 128. So just by your interest rate going down 1.5 points, right, to 6%, you are now willing to pay $128,000 to achieve a target return of 10%, because now your cash running $312, assuming your rent went back to $1,500, right? But if your rents get lowered back to $1,400, then again, now it affects it. Now you got to go back to maybe 118 instead of 128, right? And that's how you got to understand how does all work, right? As you get more information, right? If you get a bid from your contractor triples. If you get information from your property manager, and they say, hey, you can actually only get max $1,400 because no one's getting any traction with $1,500 rent. That all matters, and that affects your max purchase price or your willingness to pay on these properties. Okay, hopefully this was helpful, everybody. Again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on the call. Just simply showing you how to adjust the levers on the spreadsheet to figure out whether or not that deal is a deal, quote unquote, for you. All All right. Hopefully this was helpful already. I got a new podcast alert. If you guys haven't seen, I just did a podcast with Velma de la Rosa from the Habitat for Humanity in Orange County. She talks about how Habitat for Humanity works, her stories of the people that she's been able to help. It was truly, truly inspirational. It was so invigorating. Please, please check it out if you haven't ever seen it. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. My hope is that you copy my homework today, right? Analyze the same deal analyzed today using the same spreadsheet. You guys want to copy the spreadsheet? Go to affordablehousing.io. Go to the Get Deal Analysis tool, plug in your name, email, phone number. That's the fastest way to get a copy of the spreadsheet. And I hope you put it on your own YouTube channel. Because on top of the podcast, I go live every single day. Because at some point, someone's going to ask you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? And you can say, I know that this is a deal because I've been looking at deals for the past 485 days. Might that give you some confidence that you know what you're doing? I certainly hope so. All right. I hope you all have an amazing day. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 486. Have a good one, everybody.